Hello, Shannon again for week 3. Um, didn't put a hat on, but you can tell I got this front part that's a little late to the party with the rest of my hair, but it's coming in. Uh, Today's topic is doctor's appointments and sleepovers. As I've said before, I'm single, so and my mom lives in Louisiana. She took very sympathetic and emotional, so she was here for um, basically almost all day doctor's appointments. And my aunt that lives here as well. She is my in-state mom. Um, my all-day doctor's appointments with general surgeon, the oncologist, actually started off with a breast MRI. I had never had an MRI before, um, so I went ahead and got the Valium. I took it a little too late because I thought that I would be waiting a while before the MRI, but I was not. So I had to hurry up and like dissolve it on my tongue. But I think a breast MRI is probably better than laying face up. I got to lay face down, and I actually had a mirror that I could see out into the room. I don't think you have that option when you're laying face up, and that's where you get, the claustrophobic. Um, but it was, they've got your boobs like in this plastic kind of bra looking thing. Um, but it's hard to breathe because it stops right at your rib cage. And they had to warn me that with the knocking in the MRI that I would try to breathe with it. And they didn't want me to breathe too heavy and too fast because it would mess up the MRI pictures. So for like 20-30 minutes, I'm like trying to control my breathing because I wanted out of there as soon as possible. And of course, when it was all over with, I had with and without contrast. So I did have a needle, with the contrast going in, and yeah, you can taste it. Um, but as soon as I got off the MRI table, I guess the Valium had kicked in, so they had to help me off because I was a little high. I don't, oddly, I don't like a lot of pills, but I had never had an MRI, so I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I got in there. So I went ahead and got the Valium. But it's good to have somebody to go with you, maybe 2 people. There's a lot of information being thrown at you. You're going to have a lot of questions. If I forgot to ask something, my aunt would ask something, or my mom. Although she had breast cancer, it was 20 years ago, a lot of stuff has changed. Um, Obviously, medically, but the way they do things. My mom was maybe only offered this kind of surgery or this kind of treatment or this kind of pill, and everything has changed in 20 years, and she was shocked by that. I am young, so they have been very aggressive with treatments and surgery. Um, so after I met with the oncologist at the time, not even sure about chemo, they give you the worst case scenario. They're telling me I'm gonna have to have like almost 6 months of chemo. Um, but just be prepared that they're gonna give you the worst case scenario at your first appointment. Um, and then after your surgery, and they run more tests on the tumor and see if it's had spread to my lymph nodes. Um, they can't. They just give you the worst case scenario, and you can only back down from that. Um, Make sure you keep the appointments in with time. I've had to stay on top of my doctors about either rescheduling uh, or, oh, well, I can't have chemo next month because I had another surgery. So you have to stay on top of them. That happened to me because one doctor doesn't know from the other, unfortunately. And so I was supposed to start chemo in May, or like the end of May, but I ended up having a second surgery in the early part of May, and my oncologist was strict, and I'm sure most of them are, about not touching you for at least 1 month after surgery so your body can heal before chemo basically destroys your immune system. So just stay on top of things like that. Like tomorrow, I have to go get an injection in my. They've been giving them in my stomach, but 3 weeks ago I had my swap out surgery, and so I had liposuction again down there. I'm wearing the abdominal binder, so I have to tell the nurse, okay, this happened 3 weeks ago. I'm not really sore anymore, but do we want to put an injection in there? So they may have to go to my hip. So you just have to stay on the nurses and doctors. Um, it took 3 surgeries for the anesthesiologist and the folks in recovery to get my anesthesia right. Um, the second surgery, the anesthesiologist didn't listen to me, and I was very sick afterwards. I was in recovery is probably longer than my surgery. This go round, I behaved. I was only in there for an hour. The anesthesiologist and the nurse anesthetist listened to my concerns. They adjusted my anesthesia. I wasn't sick when I came out. I was groggy, of course. Um, but was only recovery in an hour. That recovery nurse was awesome. Um, as along my course, I got surveys from Vanderbilt, whether it was paper, whether it was like an email survey. The ones for the anesthesiologist was actually a text message survey. I had never had that, but I completed all those. They want to learn from if there was, the front desk person wasn't friendly, or the nurse didn't listen to your needs, uh, things like that, or the cleanliness of the bathroom. It's that sort of thing. Um, and so after meeting, I kind of got off on the tangent there. After meeting with an oncologist, you meet with the general surgeon, and I say she because mine was a female. Um, Gave me my options. Okay, here's where the tumor is. We think it's this big from your ultrasound and your breast MRI. Um, but we don't know if it's spread to your lymph nodes. But the general surgeon will be the one that will either perform whatever surgery you choose, whether it be a lumpectomy or just, you know, mastectomy or bilateral. She will then also send the tumor off. She will also do the mapping for the lymph nodes to see if any cells have traveled that way. I got all my options because of my family history and how young I am. I made my decision in about a half a day. I knew what I wanted before I even talked to the plastic surgeon. Yes, you'll have 3 doctors, maybe more, depending on what's going on in your certain situation.